Hey guys, tonight we drift into the sleepy haze of ancient Greece, where myths were loud, monsters were louder, and somehow you managed to nap through most of it. Imagine this. The night sky over Argos is velvet black. The sea is quiet, but inside a bronze box floating gently in the water, a baby coos softly. That baby is you, technically abandoned royalty, destined hero, future decapitator of mythical beasts. But right now, just a squishy infant in a glorified tin can, bobbing like a cork. And you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Midnight in Miami? 2 a.m. in Tokyo? I want to know. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're drifting before you even know what sleep is. The gods are up to their usual business, messing with mortals, and your mother, Danae, has found herself on their bad side. Or rather, her father's bad side. See, King Acrisius of Argos had been told by an oracle that his daughter's son, you, would eventually cause his death. So he did the logical Greek thing, locked her in a tower made of bronze. Of course, that doesn't stop Zeus. Nothing ever does. He finds his way into the chamber not with flowers or poetry, but as, get this, a shower of golden rain. No explanation needed, but suffice it to say that 9 months later, there you are. You, small and inconvenient, a walking, babbling death prophecy. In a moment of panicked grandparenting, Acrisius sticks you and Danae in a bronze chest, nails it shut, and chucks it into the Aegean Sea like some unholy message in a bottle. That's where we begin. Inside that sealed box, bobbing slowly across the waves. No monsters, no war, just the soft slosh of water, and your mother humming lullabies, her voice echoing gently against the bronze walls. You blink slowly. You don't understand yet that your life is already a myth. Historians still argue whether this part of the story was a metaphor for exile, a symbolic rebirth, or just good old Greek drama. One fringe theory even claims Danae escaped via a secret tunnel and that the box part was added later to make it more cinematic. But you're not concerned with that. You're 2 days old and mostly worried about your next nap. Eventually, you drift ashore on the island of Serifos. The locals don't get many sealed infant delivery boxes, so when the fisherman Dictys finds you and your mom washed up on the sand, he raises an eyebrow, shrugs, and brings you both home. Let's be honest, Dictys deserves more credit. Most Greek tales involve betrayals and curses and turning people into lizards, but this guy, just a normal dude with a net and a big heart. He raises you like his own. No magic, no quests, just fish and naps. You grow up near the coast. The smell of seaweed and salt water soaks your clothes. The biggest monsters here are crabs with a vendetta. Life is quiet, almost boring, which in Greek mythology means something bad is about to happen. You sleep like a champ. Nothing disturbs your deep, slow-breathing slumber, not even the waves slapping against the rocks. You dream of nothing, just void, pure rest. By the time you're a teenager, you've got broad shoulders, a mild temper, and a love of sleeping in. Everyone says you look like your mom. You take that as a compliment. You can lift nets, scale fish, and nap in any position, including upright. The island's quiet rhythm continues until, of course, Polydex gets involved. He's the king of Serifos, which sounds fancy, but mostly means he struts around in sandals that are too loud and throws parties that nobody wants to attend. He's also deeply into your mom, Danae, and deeply annoyed that you, her protective son, keep giving him the stink eye. One day, during a feast, probably after too much wine, he announces his plan to marry Danae. You do not clap. He notices. In classic insecure man fashion, he tries to flex. Bring me a wedding gift, he says. How about the head of Medusa? You blink once, maybe twice. This guy wants you to leave your island, find a cave filled with deadly snake-haired sisters, and decapitate a creature whose gaze turns people into stone for a wedding gift? You yawn, but you agree. Why? Maybe because you don't like him. Maybe because you're a teenager and think you're invincible. Or maybe you just want to get away from all the wedding planning. Historical side note. Scholars debate whether Medusa was ever meant to be a literal monster or a tragic symbol of violated womanhood. One fragment suggests her transformation was a punishment from Athena after being attacked by Poseidon in her temple. Greek myths really don't do justice when it comes to nuance. Either way, you're about to go monster hunting. But tonight, you're still just a sleepy teen, flopped on a straw mat, listening to the ocean breathe. You dream of bronze chests, of golden rain, of distant shores you haven't yet seen, of sandals that flap and heads that hiss in kingdoms where you'll never quite fit in. You shift under your blanket. The stars over Seriphos wink above you like they know something you don't. Tomorrow, you'll start a journey that historians will analyze, poets will embellish, and children will one day learn about in classrooms that smell faintly of glue and boredom. But for now, it's just you, and sleep, and a kingdom that doesn't know what's coming. Morning comes slowly on Seriphos, but you've been awake since. Well, not yet. The gulls scream their sun salutation nonsense, and the smell of old fish wafts in from the shore. Still, you roll over and tug the blanket up, trying to burrow deeper into whatever half-dream you were having. Something about a giant snake with bangs. You finally sit up, hair tousled, eyes half-lidded. The world looks the same, but everything's changed. You promised the king you'd go kill Medusa. That's not exactly a Tuesday errand. Most people wake up with feed the goats on their to-do list. You've got sever the head of a death gaze monster. And guess what? You don't even know where she lives. You shuffle to the beach, stretch yawn, and start thinking about logistics. Like, do you pack snacks for a monster hunt? Bring a towel? Will she talk first or just hiss? Luckily, the gods are watching. They always are, like over-involved relatives who text seen, but never reply. Enter Hermes. Or rather, whoosh, a breeze, a shimmer, and then boom. There he is, god of travel, thieves, and last-minute plot devices. He's got winged sandals, a perfectly tousled divine haircut, and the kind of smile that says, I know your browser history. He offers you the sandals, not just for fashion, though you do look absurdly cool in them. These babies let you fly. Before you can even thank him, poof, here comes Athena. Always serious, always glowing like she's just left a philosophy lecture. She doesn't smile. She does, however, hand you a polished bronze shield, reflective like a calm lake at dawn. This is so you don't look her in the eyes, she says, voice like clean marble. Because if you do, you'll turn into a decorative garden statue, and frankly, I don't need that on my conscience. You nod. You definitely don't want to become a weird conversation piece for passing birds. Athena also gives you a cool sword. Sharp, curved, and definitely overkill. Then she lowers her voice and tells you about the Gria, 3 crones who share one eye and one tooth between them. They know where Medusa is, she says, but they're dramatic. Steal the eye. Don't feel bad. You think this feels like cheating. She looks at you like you're cute when you're naive. So now you've got flying sandals, a shiny shield, a god sword, 2 divine endorsements, and barely any idea what you're doing. But you're committed. You hug your mom, she cries. You pat Dictys on the back. He tries not to. And then, before you fully wrapped your head around it, your feet lift off the ground, up into the air, over waves, past seagulls that squawk like jealous toddlers. Flying is weird. The sandals flap rhythmically, like overenthusiastic slippers. You're zooming across the sky like a confused superhero with no landing plan. The air stings your eyes, and your nose starts to run. It's not dignified. After what feels like hours, because it is, you land near a craggy coastal outcrop. Somewhere bleak, windy, smells like moss and bad decisions. That's where the Gria live. Now, crone is an understatement. These 3 sisters look like what would happen if you aged milk and gave it opinions. They squabble, sit hunched over a fire, and pass their shared eyeball between them like it's a family heirloom. You wait for the moment. Then, snatch, you grab the eye mid-pass. They scream. High-pitched, overlapping shrieks like banshees at a karaoke bar. Give IT back. One cries, stumbling. Not until you tell me where Medusa is, you say, squinting at the pulsating eyeball in your palm like it's a rotten grape. They grumble, mutter, hiss. Then finally, coordinates, or the ancient Greek equivalent. A cave beyond the river of night, past the desert of no return. It all sounds very theatrical. You thank them. You do give the eye back, eventually, but only after they promise to keep their curses to themselves. You take off again. The sandals flap. You're starting to get used to it. Historical aside, there's debate among scholars whether Perseus actually flew with winged sandals or whether this was a symbolic representation of swiftness and divine favor. Others say the Greer represent older mythic traditions, primordial forces stripped down to eerie archetypes. But you're mostly thinking about how bad their cave smelled. The next stop on your quest isn't a stop. It's a flight over mythic geography. You pass over places with names like Bleeding Sands and Whispering Forest, which sound dangerous, but honestly just look dusty. You land near a spring to refill your water skin. The frogs there sing weirdly on pitch melodies, and one tries to climb into your shoe. You decide not to drink. Every night, you sleep in little pockets of shade. You dream of normal things, blankets, figs, your mother humming while cutting olives. The shield rests beside you. Sometimes you think you hear it humming too. You're becoming something different. Not quite hero, not quite boy. A traveler suspended in between. One night, you lie under a canopy of stars so thick they look painted on. You feel the weight of the sword on your hip. The wind whispers like it knows your future. You close your eyes. There's no monster yet. No battle. Just a boy, a quest, and the faintest scent of wild thyme in the breeze. You breathe deep. You sleep. The world shifts around you. When you wake up, the air feels heavier, like the sky's holding its breath. You sit up slowly, the dew on your cloak damp but cool. Your shoulder cracks. You're definitely not made for sleeping on rocks, even heroic ones. You stretch, then double-check your gear. Sword? Check. Shield? Still shiny. Sandals? Still flappy. Sanity? Questionable. The wind carries with it the smell of something metallic and ancient, like old pennies soaked in seawater. That's your first hint that you're getting close. The second hint? You haven't seen a single bird in hours. The Gorgon's three sisters, only one of whom is killable, live out here in a desolate, whispering edge of the world kind of place. According to legend, no plants grow near their lair. No animals linger. Even the rocks look like they're bracing for bad news. You take a deep breath and fly lower. The land beneath you stretches out in all directions like a discarded canvas, grays, browns, and dried-out yellows. A few petrified statues of the landscape, their faces twisted in horror. Some hold up hands. Others look like they were mid-scream. All of them are frozen at the edge of Medusa's territory. That's when it hits you. This isn't just a monster hunt. This is a one-way ticket, unless you're careful. You land quietly behind a jagged rock formation and lower your head. You don't look around. You keep your eyes fixed on the inside of the bronze shield like it's the last good mirror in the world. You creep forward, step by step, guiding yourself only by the shield's reflection. And then you hear it. A slithering, wet shuffle against stone, a faint hiss that cuts through the still air. The sound of hair that isn't just hair. Medusa is here. Now, historians still argue whether Medusa was always a monster. Some say she was once a priestess of Athena, beautiful and devout, until Poseidon assaulted her in Athena's temple. As punishment, the goddess transformed her into a Gorgon. Others say Medusa always had the power, that the tale was simply a warning dressed up in mythology. Either way, she's a woman cursed to be feared. And right now, she's snoring. Yeah, she's asleep. You freeze. Shield up. Sandals quiet. You peek, only through the reflection. And yep, there she is. Curled up like a weird snake-cat hybrid. Her body is part woman, part serpent. Muscles coiled. Arms folded loosely. Face resting on one of her snake-haired limbs. The snakes, they're not sleeping. They're fidgeting like caffeine-jittered toddlers, whispering in languages you don't understand. One of them sneezes. You take another step. The shield trembles in your grip. This is it. No sword-swinging bravado. No yelling battle cries. Just a soft step, a slow breath, and slice. It's over in one motion. No roar. No death shriek. Just silence. You catch her head in a sack without looking. Her body slumps soundlessly behind you. The snakes hiss a few final curses before falling limp. The cave is still again. You did it. No, really. You actually did it. You turn and, careful now, keep your gaze low. The sword drips, something dark and ancient. The sack, ominously quiet, now contains a weapon unlike anything else in the world. You walk out of the lair and the world doesn't burst into song. The sun doesn't beam dramatically. But the sky feels lighter. And you yawn, not from relief, from genuine, full body, I was up too late exhaustion. You just killed one of mythology's most fearsome creatures, and all you can think about is how good a nap would feel right now. You shuffle to a nearby rock non-statue. You check, sit down, and exhale. The wind picks up, carrying dust and the faint echo of snakes hissing in their dreams. The hero of the hour, he's half asleep on a boulder. Quirky fact break. Some versions of the myth claim Pegasus, the winged horse, was born from Medusa's blood, which is honestly kind of poetic. One moment she's a monster, the next she births a majestic sky pony. It's like ancient Greece at its own surprise loot drops. And guess what? That's exactly what happens. From the pooling blood behind you, something stirs. A shimmering shape takes form, white wings, hooves, mane of light. Pegasus. You blink. Okay. You whisper, voice hoarse. Sure, why not? The horse stamps once and flaps its wings, tossing its head toward the horizon like it's inviting you to climb aboard. You hesitate. Flying on sandals is one thing, but flying on an emotional support horse you just accidentally birthed from a decapitated monster, that's something else. But then again, your legs are tired, so you climb on, and it's so much comfier than the sandals. Pegasus lifts off, powerful wings pushing against the sky, and suddenly you're flying above everything, the cave, the statues, the cursed earth. The world unfolds beneath you, and the bag with Medusa's head, yeah, it leaks. You tie it tighter and tuck it under your arm like the world's creepiest lunchbox. The wind rushes past your ears. The clouds are thick, marshmallowy, and your mind drifts again. Not to victory, not to glory, but to sleep. You doze a little on Pegasus' back. It's not safe, but nothing about this journey has been. You trust the horse. You trust the gods, sort of. You dream of stone faces, of laughter echoing across water, of your mother's smile, of being done with all this. But you're not done yet, because somewhere out there, a princess is chained to a rock. A sea monster is taking its sweet time rising from the waves, and you're about to crash a royal engagement like a very tired meteor. But for now, you rest. You deserve it. Pegasus glides like a dream through the upper sky, and you're slumped against his neck, drooling slightly, the wind drying it before anyone can judge you. The bag with Medusa's head bounces against your hip, still sealed, still hissing, occasionally, like a distant teapot possessed by demons. You're halfway into a nap when Pegasus begins to descend, slowly at first, then more insistently. You blink awake. Clouds part. Land emerges beneath you. A jagged coastline, cliffs bleached by sun and time, and the sparkle of sea foam spraying against rocks. You squint, and there she is, a girl, tied to a rock. Because of course she is. This is Andromeda. Her name, you'll learn later, means ruler of men, though right now she looks more like victim of extremely unfair local politics. Her wrists are bound. Her dress is in tatters. Her expression is somewhere between furious and already given up. The wind whips her hair around as she stares out to sea. You land a few meters away, stumbling slightly as you dismount Pegasus. Heroic entrance ruined by stiff knees. She doesn't even flinch. She just calls over her shoulder. If you're here to gawk, get in line behind the seagulls. You cough. Actually, I was going to help. Oh, good, she mutters. Another helpful man. You walk up beside her, careful not to look too heroic too fast. What exactly is going on? She sighs like she's told this story too many times. Her mother, Cassiopeia, bragged that Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymphs. The nymphs, insulted, complained to Poseidon. He overreacted, classic, and sent a giant sea monster to ravage the kingdom unless they sacrificed Andromeda. Hence, rock, chains, screaming. Historical note. Scholars have always loved this part of the Perseus myth for its myth versus moral themes. Was Andromeda a real figure representing suppressed voices? Or just a pretty symbol of ancient female agency stripped away by divine egos? Historians still argue whether this was a parable about humility or just a weirdly specific monster horror rescue fantasy. Anyway, you don't have time to overthink, because the sea begins to boil. Literally. The water near the horizon bulges unnaturally. Waves slap at the rocks like angry hands. Then, slowly, it rises. A creature taller than the cliffs. All tentacles, teeth, and eyes that glow with oceanic hate. The Kraken? Maybe. No one bothered to name it. You, unfortunately, are the only person here with a winged horse and a decapitated snake head. No pressure. Andromeda, to her credit, doesn't scream. She just glances sideways and mutters, "Well, you going to do something, or?" You nod, swallow hard, grip the bag, and fly. Pegasus soars toward the monster, and now you're in the middle of a sky battle you never signed up for. The beast snaps at you. Tentacles whip through the air. One grazes your leg, and it burns like seawater poured on a sunburn. You fumble for the bag. The head writhes inside like it knows it's being summoned. You draw the cloth away, careful not to look, and aim it straight at the monster's eyes. The effect is instant. Stone races over its face like frost on a window pane. Its scream turns into a shuddering rumble. Tentacles thrash, and then freeze mid-flail. One final heave of stone, and it crashes backward into the ocean. The sea monster is now a reef. Permanent. Unmoving. Possibly a future tourist attraction. You return to the cliff, panting, the head sealed once again. Andromeda raises an eyebrow. That was messy, but thanks. She holds out her wrists. You cut the ropes, and she rubs at the bruises. Silence. Then you offer, a bit awkwardly, "Want a ride?" She glances at the horse, then at you. You smell like fish in destiny. You shrug. Close enough. You help her onto Pegasus. The horse huffs, but accepts the new passenger. Together, you rise into the air. Below, the people of her kingdom begin to cheer. They have no idea who you are, but they wave anyway. Probably because you just saved them from a 12-story sea snake. As you fly, the tension begins to melt. Andromeda asks questions. You answer. You ask her if she's okay. She answers with, "I'll be fine. Eventually." Turns out she's smart, funny, kind of sarcastic. Your kind of tired person. That night, you land on a quiet ridge overlooking the sea. A fire crackles. She's wrapped in your cloak. Pegasus grazes nearby. You sit beside her, the bagged head between you like the worst dinner guest in history. You finally speak, voice quiet. "I didn't mean to get into all this. The gods just got involved." She nods. They always do. You lie back, gazing at stars that haven't changed in 1,000 years. Above you, constellations twist slowly, shapes of beasts and heroes etched across eternity. You fall asleep under that sky, closer to peace than you've been in days. Weird tidbit. One fringe myth claims Pegasus snores, not like a normal horse, but like thunder rolling gently in the distance. You wouldn't know. You sleep through it all. You've got that kind of gift. You dream of stone monsters, wisecracking princesses, and long gliding flights where the wind sings lullabies no one else can hear. Somewhere in your dream, a sea god grumbles, a king sharpens his jealousy, and fate stretches its fingers again. But you, You're out cold, like a true hero. You wake up before sunrise, which is suspicious. You're not exactly known for early mornings. The fire has burned down to sleepy embers, and Andromeda is still curled up beside you, breathing softly, cloak pulled to her chin. Pegasus lies nearby like a loaf of sky-colored bread. The bag with Medusa's head is where you left it, twitching now and then like it dreams of turning squirrels into statues. You sigh, because you know this piece won't last. It never does. You've got unfinished business back on Serifos, specifically a greasy little king who dared to threaten your mother and then thought sending you to a monster cave was a reasonable errand. Polydex. The name alone makes your jaw clench. It's the ancient Greek equivalent of Guy with an NFT profile picture, who calls himself a visionary. You roll your shoulders and get ready to fly. Andromeda stirs, blinking awake. She sits up, stretches, then fixes you with a look. We going somewhere? You nod. Time to deal with the king. She shrugs, stands, and dusts herself off. I'll pack the trauma. You bring the horse. You both climb onto Pegasus. This time you sit behind her. It feels right. She's not cargo. She's a co-pilot. The flight is long. The clouds are thicker than before, like the sky knows you're not flying just to fly. You're flying into confrontation. You talk along the way. She tells you more about her kingdom, about how her mother still insists she's prettier than sea spirits, and how her father once tried to measure his own statue. You tell her about the box in the sea, about Dictys, about growing up with calloused hands, and the smell of salted nets in your hair. Neither of you talks about Medusa. Not yet. As the island of Serifos comes into view, you both go quiet. From above, it looks so small, but inside your chest, it's a storm. You land near the palace. The villagers blink up at you, some cheer, some flee. You're holding a sword, after all, and riding a flying horse, and carrying a head that could ruin a courtyard. You dismount. Andromeda stays on Pegasus. She knows this part is yours. You stride into the palace without knocking. Polydex is mid-feast. He's laughing, wine in one hand, smugness in the other. Danae stands off to the side, expression tight, hands folded. The room falls silent. Polydex turns to you, raising an eyebrow. Well, look what the tide brought in. No monster, no head, no gift for your king. You blink slowly. Oh, I brought you a gift. And before anyone can stop you, you pull open the sack. Now, you're not looking, obviously, but you hear it, the screaming, the crashing goblets, the sudden silence as bodies turn cold and hard and quiet. When you peek through your shield, you see them, statues, all of them, frozen in place. Polydex, forever caught mid-mockery. Danae gasps softly. You rush to her. She wraps her arms around you, sobbing quietly into your shoulder. You did it. You came back, alive and victorious. Historical fact. In some versions of the myth, Danae had been imprisoned by Polydex during your absence, her fate uncertain. Your return wasn't just a heroic moment. It was a rescue. After things calm down as much as they can after a room full of impromptu marble art, you hand the island to Dictys. The guy deserves it. Honestly, he's the only Greek man in this story who isn't weirdly cursed or cursely weird. You and Andromeda spend a few days there, sleeping. Finally, you dream of cool water and fruit that doesn't fight back. Andromeda, for her part, bonds surprisingly well with Pegasus. You're almost jealous. The horse follows her like a dog with wings. One morning, she watches you polish the bronze shield and says, "So what now?" You think, you've got a monster head, a winged horse, a kingdom technically, a girl maybe, and no more cursed kings breathing down your neck. You say, we could find a quiet place. Start over. She smirks. A quiet place in Greece? Fair. Still, you decide to go somewhere new. You're tired of sleeping with one eye open. You pack lightly. Leave most things behind. Except the head. You never know when that might come in handy. You wrap it extra tight this time. Last time it twitched in your bag during lunch and turned a loaf of bread into granite. Fringe theory interlude. Some scholars believe the Medusa head was eventually used as a symbol of power, mounted on Athena's shield or kept in a temple for defense. Others suggest it was buried in secret to end the curse. One wild idea claims it still exists, hidden in a lead-lined vault beneath modern Athens. Take that with a grain of myth. You and Andromeda ride off toward the mainland. Just two tired people, a cursed relic, and a horse that occasionally flaps in its sleep. At night, you camp under open skies. Andromeda dozes beside the fire, and you lie on your back, fingers laced behind your head, listening to the wind brush the grass. You wonder what you're becoming. A hero? A legend? A guy with a really messed up resume? But mostly, you're just someone who wants a nap. The stars above shift lazily. You fall asleep to the distant sound of Pegasus's hooves twitching in dreams and Andromeda mumbling something about seaweed. Tomorrow, you'll figure out the next step. Tonight, you sleep. You've earned it. Morning arrives late and soft, as if the sun itself decided to snooze a little longer just for you. The fire's gone to ash. Pegasus is still curled like a mythical cat on the edge of the field, and Andromeda is sitting cross-legged nearby, braiding her hair and watching you with one eyebrow slightly raised. "You snore," she says. You blink. "I what?" "Like a dying flute. Kind of tragic. Shit of charming." You rub your face. "Thanks?" But she's already standing, brushing off her tunic and nodding toward the horizon. "We should move. This place is nice, but I'm starting to miss towns that don't try to kill me." "Fair." So you head inland. The plan? Vague. The route? Loosely defined. But your goal is clear. Disappear for a while, maybe forever. You've played the hero. Now you want to sleep without dreams and wake up without monsters. You pass through olive groves, dusty villages, fields filled with goats who look like they know ancient secrets. Nobody recognizes you. That's the best part. Out here, you're just two travelers with a strangely polite flying horse and a backpack that no one should open. You stay at a quiet village for a while, Tyrants. No one asks too many questions. They give you a room above a tavern and a job moving sacks of grain. You sleep like a rock every night. No monsters, no glowing swords. Just sweat, soup, and sore shoulders. Andromeda picks herbs during the day, makes sarcastic conversation with the baker's wife, and threatens to punch men who try to flirt too hard. You love that about her. You don't even notice the shield and sword gathering dust under the bed. For once, you're allowed to forget you're a myth. Until one day, a local goat disappears. Then a sheep. Then one night, someone sees a shadow near the hills. Something big, with claws, glowing eyes. You know that feeling, that tingle at the back of your skull that says, "Hey, sorry, but your nap's over." You tell Andromeda. She rolls her eyes. You really attract these things, don't you? You both investigate, of course. You follow tracks that circle the village and disappear into an overgrown thicket. Pegasus won't even go near it, and he once sneezed in Medusa's general direction. You leave him behind and creep forward. The forest hushes. Not naturally, unnaturally. Like even the wind has decided, "Nope, I'm out." Then ahead, you see it a shape hunched over something limp, snarling, shifting. Too many joints. You freeze. It turns, and it's not a monster. It's a man, kind of. He has your eyes. Okay, now you're awake. He stares at you with an expression halfway between fear and recognition. Then he bolts. You chase him, crashing through underbrush. He's fast, unnaturally fast, but you've got longer legs, years of sandal flying, and a very strong need to understand what the actual Olympus is happening. You catch him near a dry riverbed, panting. He collapses. And when you look down, you realize the truth. He's like you, your age, your build, your face, but wild, feral, like someone pulled you out of a dream and forgot to finish the rendering. He speaks in broken phrases, words you almost remember. You don't understand them. Not really, but you know what he is, your brother, kind of. See, some versions of the myth say that when Medusa was killed, her blood fell into different parts of the world and birthed strange creatures. Pegasus, Chrysaor, maybe even this, a shadow of you. born from that same death. A twin you never knew. One that never had a mother's lullaby or a fisherman's kindness. Raised by wind and wilderness. Historians still argue whether this part of the myth even belongs to Perseus. It's found in one obscure clay fragment discovered in a ruin outside Delphi, half burned, barely translated. Most scholars dismiss it as a lost folk tale. But here you are, looking into your own eyes across the dust. You offer him your hand. He doesn't take it, but he doesn't bite you either. That's progress. You bring him back to the village quietly. No one sees. You sneak him food, water, teach him how not to eat bones, and one day he's gone. No note, no drama, just gone. You feel like something's been unstitched, like a thread pulled free from your myth. And you can't stop thinking about it. How close you came to being him. How one twist in your story made you the hero and not the monster in the woods. That night you lie awake. You think about destiny. And then, eventually, you sleep anyway. Because that's what you do. You sleep through monsters, through gods, through questions without answers, and the wind rustling through the trees whispers that maybe that's your real power. You sleep longer than usual the next morning. Not just physically, deeply. The kind of sleep where dreams bleed into each other, and you're not sure if you're flying on Pegasus or sinking in slow, honey-thick waves. When you finally open your eyes, Andromeda is already up, fussing with the morning fire. She hums to herself, out of tune and entirely unapologetic. Pegasus snores behind her, tail twitching like he's battling dream wind. You sit up, stretching slowly. Your body aches, not from battles, not from curses, but from rest. Honest, bone-deep rest. You don't know it yet, but this might be the last time you feel this peaceful for a long while. The villagers talk. Word spreads. Someone recognizes you, not by face necessarily, but by the sword you left leaning by the tavern door like a very shiny coat rack. Someone whispers Perseus. Another whispers Gorgon. Then someone mentions Kingslayer. You know how it goes. Whispered names are the first cracks before the dam breaks. That evening, a messenger arrives. Dusty, panting, wide-eyed. You're needed in Argos. King Acrisius, yes, that Acrisius is dead. Or, sort of, because depending on which version of the story you believe, you might have killed him. Let's rewind. Remember that little prophecy? The one about you growing up to bring about Acrisius's death. Yeah, that one. See, according to one tale, Acrisius had fled Argos when he heard you were alive and thriving. In another version, he'd returned quietly, trying to reclaim his throne while pretending you and Danae never happened. But either way, he was in the crowd at a sporting event. You were competing discus apparently, and someone yelled something like, "Show us what the gods gave you." So you did. You spun. You threw. You didn't know he was there? But the discus curved. It always curves in the stories. It found him. One clean arc across fate. Right in the head. Historians still argue whether this event was tragic fate, poetic justice, or total coincidence wrapped in mythic hindsight. Some even claim Acrisius wore a helmet and still got taken down, which is either impressive or embarrassing. You don't remember it, or at least you tell yourself you don't. It was an accident. You weren't aiming for anyone, but the whispers keep piling. And now Argos is leaderless. The throne is empty. And you're the last piece in the prophecy. Andromeda watches your face as the messenger relays the news. She doesn't say anything at first, then, "So, are we going?" You shrug. "Do I have a choice?" She tilts her head. You always do. That's the problem. That night, you lie awake under thick blankets, the room too quiet, the kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound loud in your ears. You remember the bronze box, the waves, the stars over Seriphos. You remember Dictys's calloused hands, the weight of the shield Athena gave you. You remember Polydex turning to stone, and the wild twin in the woods. And now this. You didn't ask for any of it, but you're the center of it all. The next morning, you and Andromeda leave the village. Pegasus flaps once, almost groaning like a teenager being woken up early. As you rise into the air, you look down at Tyrans, the little tavern. the goats, the dusty olive trees. It was never meant to be forever, but it was a moment, a pause, a breath. You soar toward Argos. The air is heavy. Clouds thicken. No monsters this time. No curses. Just politics, which in ancient Greece are usually worse. You land near the city gates. No one stops you. Inside, the streets are full of people pretending not to look. Merchants adjusting wares they've already arranged perfectly. Children too still. Dogs too quiet. The throne room is bigger than you remember it. Or maybe that's just your age showing. Danae meets you there. She's older. Of course. Softer around the eyes. Her hair streaked with gray, but her back straight as a spear. She hugs you like she never let go. You want to collapse in her arms. But the room has witnesses. So you straighten. A council of nobles sits around the empty throne. They eye you like you're either a gift or a threat. Probably both. One clears his throat. You are the heir. Another adds, but do you want the crown? You glance at the throne. It's made of olive wood and gold. It's been scrubbed clean as if someone tried to erase the ghost of Acrisius from it. You think of the discus. You think of sleep. You say, no. There's silence. You add, but I'll help choose who should. And somehow, that settles it. They nod. You step back from the throne. Just far enough. That night, there's a feast, or something like it. People want to celebrate the end of the prophecy, the survival of the kingdom, the fact that the gods didn't wipe them out after all. You and Andromeda stand on a balcony, watching torches flicker across Argos like stars fall into earth. You say, I think I'm done. She looks at you. Done saving people. You shake your head, done being the one who has to. You lean on the railing. She leans next to you. Neither of you speaks for a long time. Pegasus lands on the roof above, hooves clicking softly. He's ready to fly again. He always is. You're not sure, but you're allowed to sleep on him. For now. You leave Argos before dawn. The sky's still tinted that hushed pre-blue, and the streets are slick with dew and leftover wine from the We're not cursed anymore feast. No one sees you go, not even the guards who are probably asleep or pretending to be. Andromeda rides behind you on Pegasus, arms wrapped around your waist, chin resting lightly on your shoulder. She doesn't ask where you're headed. Neither do you. You both know the answer. Anywhere. But here, you fly low, skimming treetops and stirring startled birds from their morning roosts. Below, Greece unfolds like a patchwork blanket, mountains, rivers, clusters of tiny farmhouses. And you feel, for the first time in a while, completely unburdened. Until, of course, you remember what's in your satchel. Still there. Still squirming occasionally. The head. Medusa's. You don't even say her name anymore. You just call it the head, like a secret you're stuck carrying. Or that weird leftover dish in the back of the fridge, too dangerous to touch, but too guilt-ridden to throw away. You land in a meadow around midday. Pegasus flops onto the grass with a dramatic huff. Andromeda lies flat and stares up at the sky like it owes her money. You sit. The head rests near your feet, wrapped and sealed. You glance at it. Andromeda does too. You still carrying that thing? You nod. Feels wrong to leave it. She squints. Feels wrong to keep it, and there it is. The thing neither of you has said out loud. It's not just a relic. It's a trauma souvenir. And not even yours, really. It belonged to someone who wasn't a monster until the gods made her one. Historical aside, there's increasing scholarly interest in Medusa's narrative, not as a creature of horror, but a woman wronged by divinity, reshaped by revenge. Some argue she never turned evil at all. She was simply turned into evil by male fear and storytelling. You sit in the grass looking at the bundle. Maybe I should bury it, you say. Andromeda shrugs. Maybe you should just stop letting it define you, oof. You think about that all afternoon. You set up a small fire, roast some olives and bread, and try to pretend it's a normal camping trip. At night, you sleep fitfully. You dream of stone, not being turned to it, but building with it. Walls, a city, a place no monster can find. You wake up to the idea still warm in your chest. You sit bolt upright and say, "We need a home." Andromeda, half asleep, groans. "We have a home. It's called this blanket. Go back to sleep, but you're serious. You want to stop drifting. You want a town with rules, but not curses. A roof that doesn't echo with fate. A place you can belong to instead of carry on your back." The next day, you scout. You and Andromeda fly for hours until you find it. A little plateau near the sea. Green hills, drinkable springs, defensible cliffs. It's perfect. And abandoned. There's even an old goat watching you from a rock like he's been waiting. You set up camp there. But this time, it's more than camp. You gather stones. Lay them out. You build something. Not just a shelter, but a home. It takes days. Weeks. The wind doesn't cheer you on. The gods don't intervene. No one turns into a swan or explodes. It's normal, and it's everything. You and Andromeda work in silence mostly, occasionally arguing over where to put the sleeping area. She wins. Always. At night, you lie under the stars and talk about small things. Not monsters, not curses, stuff like, do we plant olives or figs? And should Pegasus get his own hut? You agree yes. He keeps stealing your blanket. One day, you unwrap the head. Just once. You stare into its eyes without looking at them. It's quiet now. No hissing. No twitching. You whisper, "I'm sorry," and bury it beneath the tallest rock. You mark the spot. Not as a grave, but as a reminder. You are part of something ugly. But you don't have to carry it forever. Quirky tidbit. In a half-forgotten regional myth, some say the site where Perseus buried the head became fertile. Wildflowers growing twice as fast, bees refusing to sting. The locals called it the place the gaze rested. Sweet, right? Also terrifying. Weeks pass, then months. You meet travelers. They stay, help build, bring chickens, start calling the place your town. You shrug, but you don't correct them. Eventually, someone carves a statue, not of you slaying Medusa, but of you and Andromeda planting trees. You pretend to hate it. But when no one's looking, you sit beside it, sometimes for hours. One day, a kid runs up to you, dirt on their face, holding a turtle. Are you a hero? You think. Then say, "Not today." And that feels true. At night, Andromeda sleeps next to you, murmuring in dreams. Pegasus snores in his goat-sized hut. The stars above are the same ones from Seriphos, from Argos, from the Discus, from the cave. But they feel closer now, less like watchers, more like witnesses. You fall asleep not as Perseus, slayer of monsters, but as Perseus, builder of homes. Which really might be the harder job. You wake up with a chicken on your chest. It clucks once in judgment and hops off. You're not even mad. That's just life now. Your house is almost finished. Your town, has a name. You didn't pick it, but no one cares. They call it Perseus, which sounds grander than it is. It's mostly goats, weirdly productive gardens, and a single amphora of wine that keeps mysteriously refilling itself. You suspect Dionysus is pranking you. Again. You walk out to the garden where Andromeda is yelling at an olive tree. "Grow better," she insists. "Try harder." You hand her a fig and shrug. Positive reinforcement. She snorts. "You're lucky you're handsome." Pegasus trots past, dragging a rope for no reason. No one rides him anymore. He's semi-retired. Sometimes he flies laps just to remind the sky who it belongs to. You spend the morning helping a family fix their roof. You're good with your hands. You don't tell them you once decapitated a gorgon. You just hammer the wood and listen to them argue about soup. And then, around noon, someone shows up, a stranger. Cloaked, dusty, carrying a scroll and a face full of bad news. You greet him like you greet everyone now, cautiously, but with a pitcher of water. He sits, drinks, then quietly says, "They want the head." You freeze. It takes a full breath before you even respond. "Excuse me." "The Athena cult," he says. "Priests in the north. They claim the head belongs to her, that it was a divine gift. not yours to keep. They sent me to find you. Andromeda, from the doorway, mutters, "Here we go again." You sigh and sit down on a rock. It's buried. It's done. He nods. They still want it, or proof it's gone. You ask, "What happens if I say no?" He doesn't answer. That night, you sit by the stone where you buried Medusa's head. The wildflowers are thick now. A few bees hum past. The air smells like thyme and nervous regret. Andromeda joins you, silent for a while. Then, you could give them a rock and say it's her. You smirk. You're evil. I'm practical. You consider it. But there's something about lying to a goddess of war that makes you uneasy. You dig up the bundle, gently, carefully, and it's still intact. Still heavy with that old, weird weight. But the bag no longer rides, just rests. You bring it to the stranger the next morning. He accepts it with a bow, saying he'll take it to the Temple of Athena for final rites. You watch him disappear into the hills, the satchel bouncing at his side. And you feel lighter, not free, but less bound. Historical note. Some say the head of Medusa was mounted on Athena's shield, the aegis, as a symbol of divine protection. Others say it was destroyed, ritually unmade by priestesses in silence and fire. Historians still argue whether the Gorgon's head was power, curse, or something in between. But in your case, it was both, and it's not yours anymore. Back at town, you tell the villagers the head is gone. They cheer. One guy brings out a flute. He's terrible at it. You let him play anyway. For days, things feel even quieter. No more curses hanging over you. No relics hidden underfoot. You finally sleep deep. So deep that you don't hear the messenger until morning. He's from Mycenae. The king is dead. No children. The throne. Technically yours. Again. You stare at the scroll for a long time. Andromeda walks up behind you. If you say, "I have to," I'm hitting you with a ladle. You don't say it, but you do know that something is pulling you. Again, you fly to Mycenae alone. It's gray and cold and made of stone taller than any tree you've ever seen. The people there don't clap, don't cheer. They just watch. The throne room smells like wet limestone and old decisions. You don't sit. You say, "I won't rule, but I'll help rebuild. I'll find someone better." They nod, relieved, honestly. They didn't want another hero. They wanted a neighbor. You spend a month helping them fix broken aqueducts, hire teachers, plant grain. You say no to statues. You say yes to libraries. And then, one morning, you leave. No party, just a saddlebag of bread, a smile from a baker, and Pegasus stretching his wings like, finally. Back home, Andromeda is in the garden. She doesn't ask how it went. She just hands you a peach. You bite into it. It's the best thing you've tasted in years. You both sit there until the sun goes down. Sometimes, the greatest battles aren't against monsters. They're against the part of you that thinks you need to keep fighting. But not tonight. Tonight, the garden is enough. The fire crackles. The stars wink. And you fall asleep with a full stomach, a warm blanket, and no cursed heads nearby. Just peace. Actual, boring, blissful peace. You're deep into one of those dreams where you're flying, but not on Pegasus. Just kind of flapping your arms slowly like an underachieving bird when a sound pulls you back. Knock, knock, knock. You blink. Not a dream. Knock, 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 knock. You groan. It's barely dawn. You mutter. Andromeda stirs beside you. Tell whoever it is they better be on fire. You open the door. Standing there is a boy no older than 10, clutching a scroll that's been sealed 3 different times. He looks terrified, as if you might accidentally turn him into stone. You smile. It's okay. I don't do that anymore. He says nothing. Just hands you the scroll and bolts like you're a Medusa with better shoes. You open it and sigh. Because, of course, it's another invitation to a feast. This one's from Corinth. A new ruler wants to show off and is inviting renowned heroes of Greece to attend. There's even a list of names, like a mythological guest list. Heracles, Atalanta, Theseus, Ugh, and you. You show it to Andromeda. She squints. Is this real? Or are they trying to trap you into a multi-level marketing scheme? You laugh. Unclear. But by nightfall, you've made a decision. You'll go. Not because you care about the feast or the wine or the politics, but because you need to see what the rest of the world has become while you were building fig fences and arguing about where Pegasus should sleep. The journey is easy. Pegasus seems to enjoy stretching his wings again, even if he snorts every time someone calls him majestic. He lands just outside Corinth's gates with a little extra flair, probably to show up any other flying creatures in the area. The city is bustling, bigger than Argos, cleaner than Tyrans, louder than Serifos ever dreamed of being. You walk in alone. The guards wave you through, word travels fast, and even though it's been years since you swung a sword in anger, your name still sticks to walls like smoke. Inside, the feast is exactly what you expected. Too much food, too much noise, too many people who use words like valor and destiny while wearing shoes they definitely didn't earn. You spot Heracles instantly, massive, bearded, arm-wrestling 3 men at once and eating grapes between turns. He sees you and waves like your old gym buddies. Theseus is in the corner, surrounded by hangers-on, telling a story about how he totally did most of the work with the Minotaur thing. You don't sit with them. Instead, you find Atalanta. She's leaning against a pillar, arms crossed, expression sharp as flint. "Perseus," she says flatly. "Atalanta." She glances at your empty hands. "No shield, no magical weapon." You shrug. "Left them under the bed." She smirks. "Good call." You talk. She's different from the others. She doesn't ask about your feats. She wants to know if your garden's any good, if the tomatoes came in yet, if Andromeda still thinks she's funnier than she is. She is, for the record. Then the host arrives. Some minor prince with too many rings and not enough chin. He makes a speech. It's long. It's loud. It includes the phrase, "honored by destiny" 3 times. You yawn. But then something unexpected happens. He pulls back a curtain and reveals a statue of you. Mid-swing, sword raised, Medusa's head clutched like a trophy. It's huge, gleaming, awful. The room applauds. You do not. You walk up to it. Stare at the face. Not yours. Hers, frozen forever in horror. You feel something rise in your chest. Not pride. Not grief. Just exhaustion. Atalanta joins you. She murmurs, "They never ask what the monsters wanted, do they?" You shake your head and walk out. No one follows. Not even Heracles, who's too busy trying to wrestle a roasted boar for dessert. Outside, the air is cooler, quieter. Pegasus waits patiently, swishing his tail. You mount up, fly home. You don't speak on the ride, not even when the wind shifts, not even when the stars emerge one by one like old friends with long memories. Back at home, Andromeda is awake. She opens the door before you land. You say, "They made a statue." She nods. Of course they did. You sit on the porch. Eat a figure say nothing for a while. Eventually, she leans on your shoulder. "You're more than that story." You whisper, "I know." But it's hard, because everywhere you go, people want you to be the man with the sword, the head, the victory. Not the man who plants olives and sometimes cries when he accidentally squishes a ladybug. Still, tomorrow, the figs will ripen. The kids will ask you to teach them how to build a proper roof. Pegasus will sneeze on your laundry. And that will be enough. You fall asleep on the porch, her hand in yours, your name echoing far away in cities you'll never visit again. Let them build statues. You'll build a life. You dream of stone. But not the cursed kind, no shrieking gorgons, no marble screams. This time it's warm. You're building something. A wall? A hearth? Your hands are dirty but steady. There's laughter in the distance. Maybe yours. Then the dream shifts, and you're in a field full of broken statues. Some have your face. Some look like Andromeda. One is Pegasus, but with sunglasses for some reason. You're carrying a broom, trying to sweep up fragments that won't stop muttering about destiny and heroic arcs. You wake up mid-sigh. Andromeda's already gone, probably terrorizing the garden again. You walk out barefoot. The ground is warm. The air smells like fig leaves and goat breath. Pegasus, as usual, is standing way too close. You scratch his ear. Morning, you dramatic carpet, he huffs. There's a letter waiting on the table, heavy parchment, sealed in gold. No courier in sight. The gods like to keep things spooky. You open it with a dull knife and an eye roll. Inside, a short note, no signature, just a command. Come to Delphi. The oracle speaks your name. Of course she does. You don't want to go. You want to build a fence for the new chickens. But the oracle rarely calls twice, and ignoring her usually ends in frogs, or boils, or singing furniture, the usual. Andromeda appears behind you. So, are we being summoned again? You nod. Delphi. She groans. I just planted beans. Pegasus lifts his head, tail flicking like he's been waiting for this drama. You pack light. The usual. Cloak, bread, knife, possibly divine resentment. And off you go, into the sky once more. Clouds parting lazily, like even Olympus is getting tired of all this. Delphi appears beneath you like a marble puzzle tucked into a mountainside. Smoke coils from the temple. The smell of incense hits you before your feet do. The priests greet you with too much formality and not enough snacks. They usher you into the sacred chamber, where the Pythia waits. She's older than you expected, and younger, both at once. Time plays tricks here. She doesn't look at you, just speaks. You've outlived your myth. You blink. That's a good thing, right? Her voice is low, echoing from nowhere. Not everyone escapes their story. But you did. She turns her head, not facing you, but through you. The gods have watched. You have slept through battles, built instead of destroyed. You have made choices. You glance at Andromeda, who stands at the edge of the chamber, arms crossed, suspicious as ever. The oracle continues. You will not be remembered as they wrote you, but as you lived. You nod, slowly, unsure what to say. She adds, one final task remains. There it is. Of course, you brace yourself. She holds out her hand. A tiny vial sits in her palm, black liquid that shifts like ink underwater. A gift, she says, or a test. Depends on how you use it. What is it? A forgetting. The chamber hums. You stare, because you understand what she means. Drink it, and forget the gods, the battles, the weight of myth. Forget Medusa. Forget the shield, the sword, the flying sandals. Just be a man. A tired, happy fig-planting man, but you also know the cost. You'd lose the memory of her, too. The moments, the quiet triumphs. The reason you ever wanted peace in the first place. You look at Andromeda again. Her eyes meet yours. She shakes her head. Just once. You smile and step back. No thanks, you say. I'll carry it. The oracle nods. You leave the chamber lighter than you entered. Back outside, Pegasus greets you with a sneeze, and a sneeze-induced fart. Glorious creature. Andromeda slaps your shoulder. You didn't drink it, did you? You smirk. Would have ruined our anniversary memory. She grins. Good answer. You fly home in silence. But it's the good kind of silence. The kind that's earned. Quirky tidbit. One lesser-known regional tale says Perseus was offered immortality and turned it down. Not because he feared eternity, but because he couldn't garden in Olympus. Divine soil? Terrible drainage. Classic bureaucracy. Back at Perseus, your house looks just like you left it. Unremarkable. Slightly crooked. Full of life. A few kids chase Pegasus around, giggling. He tolerates it with the patience of an immortal being who once lived in Zeus's stables and is now getting smacked with fig branches. That night, you sit under the stars. Andromeda beside you. Feet bare. Hearts full. You think about the oracle's words. About how some people never escape their stories. But you did, and not by running. By staying. By sleeping through what didn't matter. And waking up for what did. You whisper to the night, I remember everything. And the stars seem to nod. as if that's enough. It's been a year since Delphi. The olive trees are taller now. The garden has gone rogue, spilling over the walkways, attacking your sandals every time you fetch water. There's a small schoolhouse in the center of town, where kids learn their letters and how not to wake Pegasus during his mid-morning nap. And you're still you, which is weirdly comforting. You fix roofs. You carve things. You bake exactly one kind of bread and refuse to learn a second. You don't get summoned much anymore. No more flying out mid-dinner to wrangle curses or negotiate with flame-eyed creatures from deep crevices. But still, you keep the sword under the bed, just in case. One morning, you find a traveler at the edge of town. She's ragged, tired, wild-eyed in the way you recognize instantly. Someone who's seen too much of the divine and not enough of sleep. She asks, "Is this Perseus?" You nod. "You're here." She says, "They told me you'd understand." And you do. You don't ask her story. You just show her the empty room in the west house and point to the garden hose that occasionally sprays sideways. She smiles like it's the first real thing she's been offered in years. That night, Andromeda sits on the porch, peeling apples. Pegasus sleeping nearby with his face tucked into his wing. You lean beside her. Another refugee. She nods. That makes 12. You don't ask where they're all coming from. You already know. The world is full of stories, and not all of them end with a statue and a feast. Some people fight monsters that don't have names, gods that don't offer gifts. They walk away burned, bent, tired, and they find their way to you. Because you've built something here, not a temple, not a throne, a pause, a shelter, a bed with a roof that doesn't leak, a cup of soup without conditions. You become something else slowly, not hero, not king, just anchor. The villagers start calling you Papa Perseus. At first, you make gagging noises every time someone says it. But then a toddler runs up, hugs your leg and says, "You make the sky quiet." And honestly, you cry. Just a little. Historical curiosity. Some odd fragments mention the sleepers of Perseus, a strange group believed to be those who survived the gods and withdrew from myth. Scholars argue if they were real or symbolic, but a few historians insist Perseus led them, not by sword, but by stillness. A soft rebellion. There's an old woman who comes every week just to sit under the tree you planted. She never speaks. You never ask. A pair of brothers from Thebes show up one month. They were supposed to be chosen, they say, for something. They never were. You give them jobs building fences. They never leave. One evening, you hear soft music drifting across the valley. A new kid's learning the flute, and he's actually good. Andromeda looks at you. You hear that? You nod. She smirks. Guess we can stop lying to him now. Your face splits into a grin. The next day, you carve a small plaque above the school door. Here, we teach them to grow, not fight. One of the village teens draws a cartoon of you on a wall, holding a shovel like a sword, your beard full of bees. You pretend to be furious, but you secretly love it. It's disturbingly accurate. Then one night, a god shows up. Not in a blaze, not with trumpets, just at your table. Put down, quiet. It's Hermes, of course. Always him. He picks at a bowl of figs, doesn't speak for a while. Then, you've changed things. You say, "I didn't do it alone." He looks out the window at the town. "No," he agrees, "but they needed someone to start it." You watch him. "You here to take it back?" He shakes his head. "No, just visiting." You pour him more wine. "What happens now?" He leans back, smiling. "Now." You keep going. You keep sleeping through the noise. He leaves before sunrise. No dramatic exit, just gone. Like a dream you almost forgot. The next morning, the bees are louder. The tomatoes riper. Pegasus has somehow learned to open doors and now refuses to knock. Everything is normal. Everything is good. You think about Medusa sometimes, not with fear, with memory, with quiet. Sometimes you whisper thanks. Not for her death, but for what her story taught you. How to stop. How to rest. How to listen. You still hear the wind sometimes whispering your name, but it's softer now, and you sleep through it, because that's who you are. Perseus, the sleeper, the builder, the one who stopped the story and chose silence instead. The days get slower. Not in a bad way, just in that quiet, sun-drenched way where time forgets to hurry. The olive trees bloom. The fields stretch a little wider. Someone builds a bakery that makes bread so soft you start scheduling your day around second breakfast. You're in the garden when a small voice pipes up behind you. Is it true you cut off a lady's head? You turn. It's a child, mud on her knees, eyes like a storm about to happen. She stares at you like she's trying to decide if you're a bedtime story or a bedtime warning. You kneel. I did. You say. She frowns. Why? And there it is. Not the reverence. Not the just the question. You pick up a fig and turn it slowly in your hand. It's complicated. You begin. Some people said she was dangerous. Others said she was cursed. Some said she was angry because no one listened to her. The girl's brow furrows. Was she mean? You shrug. She was tired. The girl nods like that makes perfect sense. Then she asks, did she have friends? And for a moment, you don't know what to say. You finally answer, maybe, before. The girl sighs, brushes her hands on her tunic, and walks away. And you're left holding a fig and a memory you can't uncarry. Historians still argue whether Perseus was the great liberator of the myths or just another name in a long line of men sent to fix divine messes with mortal weapons. Some call him the beginning of Greece's age of heroes. Others call him the last man who ever bothered to apologize. Later, you're at the forge with a younger villager, a wiry teen named Eryx with quick hands and the attention span of a startled goose. He wants to learn to smith. You mostly want him to stop burning himself. As he swings the hammer with questionable grace, he suddenly blurts, "Why don't you fight anymore?" You wipe your forehead. Because I don't have to. But you could. You've got the muscles and the stories and the whole mysterious stare thing. You raise an eyebrow. Mysterious stare, he grins. You do this thing with your eyes, like you're looking through people, like you've already seen what happens next. You chuckle. I've just been through enough that I don't need to keep proving it. Eryx isn't satisfied. But what if something bad shows up? You hand him a jug of water. Then I'll know what to do, but I don't look for it anymore. He's quiet after that, but he swings with more focus. That night, you lie on the roof with Andromeda, watching the stars. She pokes you in the side. You're getting soft. You poke her back. I've been soft. That's the secret. She leans her head on your shoulder. You know, most people would have become kings. Or generals. Or, I don't know, statue collectors. You shrug. I wanted a porch. You both lie there a while. The sky swirls with quiet. Then Andromeda says, do you regret any of it? You think. Not for long. No. Even the bad parts. The cursed head. The accidental discus murder. The flying sandals that chafed. All of it brought you here. She smiles. Good. Because this. She gestures vaguely at your sleepy town. The blinking windows. The dog that thinks it's a goat. This is the best thing you ever did. You kiss her cheek and fall asleep before you can get sentimental about it. Because you've learned something over the years. You don't always need a final word. Sometimes, you just need to rest before the next day. Curious detail. One rare, cracked inscription found in the Peloponnese simply reads, "He turned away from glory, and the garden grew." Scholars think it refers to you, or maybe just someone who had enough. In the morning, the wind is soft. Pegasus kicks down the chicken coop door again. You sigh. Laugh. Rebuild it with Eryx and a kid named Melia who wants to be the first woman in town to ride a flying horse. You say, you'll probably do it. She grins like she already has. And that evening, a breeze picks up from the north. It carries no threat. Just the faint smell of cinnamon and fig trees. You sleep well. No sword beneath your pillow. No shield at the ready. Just Andromeda, Pegasus snoring under the window, and a town that hums like a song without words. The myth goes quiet, and that silence is beautiful. The rain comes late that season, Not the angry kind that storms in with lightning and melodrama, but the lazy drizzle that soaks into the soil like an apology. You stand under the awning, watching it paint the courtyard darker and shinier. Pegasus hides inside the barn, pretending he's not scared of thunder. Andromeda wraps a cloak around your shoulders. Still pretending you're not cold, you nod. It's part of my mystique. She smirks. You're soggy. That night, the rain turns to a downpour. You lie awake, listening. Not anxious, just aware. The house creaks like it's dreaming. Somewhere in the distance, a tree falls. Nature cleaning its own clutter. In the morning, the world is different. Not in a magical way, just cleaner. The leaves glisten. The streets sparkle. A child is splashing barefoot in a puddle with the joy of someone who has never heard the word prophecy. You walk the perimeter of the village like you always do, greeting people, fixing a loose gate hinge, nodding solemnly at the rooster who seems to be planning a coup. Near the eastern edge, you find a marker stone tipped over. You set it upright, and for some reason, that small act of balance makes your chest ache. Not with sadness, just with memory. You used to tip the world with every step. Now you reset boundary stones, and you prefer it, until of course a letter arrives. Again, this one is different. The parchment is dark, water resistant. The seal isn't wax, it's obsidian, somehow still warm. You break it open. Inside. Perseus. You are summoned. Not by gods, by kin. You read it 3 times before Andromeda speaks behind you. What now? You hand her the letter. She raises an eyebrow. You have kin? You shrug. Apparently, there's no signature, no location. Just a whisper of obligation, and you hate how quickly you start packing. You tell the town you'll be gone for a few days. They nod, knowing the pattern by now. Eric's asks if he can be in charge. You tell him, only if you promise not to declare war on the bakery. He looks disappointed. Fine. You fly low, not sure where you're going. But the wind knows, it always does. It pulls you northwest, across hills you haven't seen in years, through clouds thick as soup. Pegasus doesn't even question it. He just glides like an arrow drawn by memory. Eventually, you land at the edge of a forest. Not one of myth. Just a normal, damp, mossy forest where nothing sings in Latin and no trees grow faces. You hope. You walk. And walk. Until you find a fire. And a man. Older. Rougher. But familiar. You freeze. It's him. The wild twin. From all those years ago. The feral version of you born from Medusa's death. The one you chased through a forest. Fed under moonlight. Watched vanish like a dream. He hasn't aged like you. Not really. But he doesn't look like an animal anymore. He looks tired. Like someone who's lived. Survived. He doesn't say anything at first. Just nods. You sit beside the fire. He hands you bread. It's terrible. But you eat it. And then, finally, he speaks. We're dying. You blink. We? The others. Like me. The ones from her blood. You weren't the only one. You stare at him. They're being hunted, he continues. Some by men. Some by monsters who think they're men. You nod. Slowly. And you want my help? He shakes his head. No, I want your sanctuary. And just like that, your quiet life pulses again with the echo of myth. You think about it all. The town. The kids. The bread that keeps improving. And then you say, come back with me. He watches you, eyes sharp and unsure. You sure? He asks. No, you admit. But that's never stopped me before. He grins. And for a second, you see your own smile reflected back at you. The walk back is quiet. Pegasus side-eyes your brother, but allows it. When you land in Perseus, no one panics. They've seen stranger things. Andromeda meets him like she already knew this was coming. She hands him a cloak, a cup of stew, and points toward the empty house by the grove. You say nothing. Just sit on the porch that night, listening to the stars hum. Because they do sometimes. If you've been quiet long enough, if you've stopped shouting destiny into every cloud. Interesting note, there's one myth told only in whispered fragments, that claims Perseus had a shadow self who wandered the woods for decades, keeping balance between monsters and men. They say he found peace not in war, but in watching someone else finally sleep without fear. You look over and see him, the other you, leaning back against the doorframe, asleep. For the first time and maybe ever. And you smile and follow him into rest. You sleep longer than expected. Maybe because there's no battle waiting. No quest on pause. Just rain, soft earth, and the faint scent of firewood soaked into your walls. You wake to the smell of honeyed barley and Andromeda humming some off-key lullaby she swears is ancient and noble. Pegasus is lying across the doorway like an inconvenient mythological doormat. Your brother, if you can call him that, is sitting at the edge of the orchard, staring at the fig trees like they might attack. He hasn't spoken much since arriving, but you recognize the look on his face. The almost peace. The cautious breath between escape and belonging. You sit beside him with a bowl of warm porridge. He takes it, eats like someone who still half expects it to vanish. "You ever going to tell me your name?" you ask. He shrugs. "Didn't have one." You can pick. You think, not about something grand or godlike. Something simple. "Thalos," you say. It means blooming branch. He makes a face. "I don't feel like a flower." You smirk. "You don't have to. Just grow." He stares into the trees, the sunlight filtering through the leaves, gold and quiet. "I'll try." You nod. That's all anyone can ask. Fringe myth alert. In one obscure scroll discovered near Ephesus, a figure named Thalos is described as the silent twin of the hero, born not to fight but to see. Most scholars dismiss the text as allegorical nonsense. You, however, are starting to wonder. Life returns to normal, as much as it can. The town accepts Thalos with the same shrug they gave Pegasus and Andromeda. A few kids try to arm wrestle him. He lets them win. Most days, he works beside Eric's repairing fences or carving quiet little animals out of scrap wood. He never says much, but when he laughs, it's real. One afternoon, you find him teaching a group of children how to track footprints in the mud. "Not for hunting," he says, "just to notice things." You step back and let the moment breathe. The village continues to grow. Someone builds a second bakery. A visiting bard composes a song about the quiet king and insists on singing it 3 times a week, off-key, near your porch. You pretend to hate it. Andromeda finally builds a pergola over the garden, claiming it'll make the tomatoes less dramatic. You spend your evenings with her under it, eating olives and throwing stale bread at Pegasus when he begs too loudly. One night, Thalos joins you. He sits across the table, his plate full, his hand steady. After a long silence, he says, "They're still looking for us." You don't ask who they are. You just ask, "Do they know where?" He shakes his head. "Not yet, but they're getting close." You nod slowly. "Then we'll be ready." And that's it. No panic. No midnight sword sharpening montage. Just awareness and preparation. The next few days, you do quiet things with more focus. You reinforce the school's walls. Teach a few of the older kids how to throw, not spears, but stones. Not for killing, for warning. You and Thalos walk the perimeter at dawn. He shows you signs, scrapes on trees, shifts in birdsong. And yet, there's no fear, because you've lived through worse. You've outlasted gods. You've outslept monsters. If danger comes, it'll find you at peace, not panic. Historians still argue about the end of Perseus's life. Some say he ruled Mycenae and died old. Others say he ascended to the stars with Pegasus, a golden crown on his head and a sword in his hand. A rarer tale says he faded into obscurity, letting his legend wither so something better could grow in its place. You prefer that one evening, as the sun sinks and the fields shimmer, you gather the town in the central square. You stand beside Andromeda and Thalos and speak, not loudly, just enough. You tell them the truth. That peace isn't permanent, but it's possible. That gods might stir, but people can stand. That this place, this fig-smelling, goat-stomping, bread-overflowing place is real because they made it so. They don't cheer, they nod, because they know. And then a child runs forward, grabs your hand, and says, "Will you still tuck us in?" You kneel. Every time. That night, you tuck in 10 kids. Then Andromeda. Then Pegasus, who insists with a heavy sigh that his hooves be covered. You check the windows. Place your sword, dusty but still sharp, by the door. And lie down. Thalos sits by the window watching the stars. You ask him, "Think they're watching?" He shrugs, "Probably." You smile. "Let him." And you drift off, not to the sleep of warriors, to the sleep of builders, of brothers, of people who know exactly who they are. And finally, don't need anyone to say it out loud. The threat never arrives. At least, not in the way stories like to tell it. No burning ships, no armies cresting the hills, no gods hurling thunderbolts just to feel important. Instead, it comes as a visitor, a woman in gray. No shoes, no escort, just a staff carved from petrified wood and a satchel full of silent weight. You see her coming long before she enters town, not because of prophecy or divine warning, but because Thalos stops what he's doing. Mid-step, mid-sentence, his whole body stills like a deer sensing a storm no one else can hear. "She's here," he says. You both stand at the gate to meet her. She looks at you like she already knows your name, not your heroic one. Your real one. She says nothing, just reaches into her satchel and pulls out a single round stone. It's etched with 3 symbols. 1, the head of a snake. 2, an eye. 3, a doorway. You exhale, slowly. You're not here for war. She finally speaks, her voice as old as wind in catacombs. "No, I'm here to end what began with her. Medusa." Even now, the name coils in your chest. You nod toward the town. "She's not here. Not anymore." "I know," the woman says, "but her children are." You glance at Thalos. He doesn't flinch. She continues, "We were guardians once. Now we are the last record keepers. My order preserves what truth remains. Most want to forget, but forgetting is a kind of death." And then, this part surprises you. She bows, low, respectfully. "Perseus," she says, "you ended the Gorgon, yes. But you also broke the cycle. You stepped out of myth and made a place for survivors." You stand there, unsure how to hold that kind of truth. She offers the stone. "This is yours. Keep it or bury it. But know that peace echoes louder than prophecy." You take it. It's heavier than it looks. Thalos steps forward, voice low. "Are there more like us?" The woman nods. "Some still hide. Some are hunted. A few hunt back, and you know what he's about to ask before he does. Can I find them?" You put a hand on his shoulder. Then let go. Because this is his story now. You say, "You know where home is." He smiles, and just like that, you begin packing for him. A satchel of bread, a dagger that's never been used, a scarf Andromeda insists will make him look mysterious. That night, the town gathers, not to mourn, to send off one of their own. There's music, terrible, off-key, but earnest. Someone tries to rhyme Pegasus with spaghetti. Pegasus is not amused, and then Thalos rides out. Not on a horse, on his own 2 feet, because some journeys have to begin close to the ground. And you stand at the gate until he disappears behind the ridge. Then you go home, put the stone on a shelf, and rest, because the world doesn't need you to save it anymore. It just needs you to keep the porch light on. Historical fun fact: in later folk tales, Perseus is described as the watchman of the weary, a man who, rather than slaying beasts, kept a fire going for those who had nowhere left to go. Most scholars dismissed it as poetic reinvention. But then again, most scholars never had to bury a cursed head and build a bakery in its place. The seasons shift. You plant garlic this year, and chickpeas. Andromeda paints the bedroom purple. You pretend not to like it. You secretly love it. Children grow taller. Pegasus grows moodier. The bakery expands and now sells honey that wins prizes no one applied for. And one day, A girl knocks on your door. She's got a sword too big for her frame and a story too heavy for her smile. She asks, "Is this where you go when you don't want to be a hero anymore?" You smile. "This is where you go when you're done letting other people write your ending." She nods and stays. And the town grows again, not with monuments, with people, stories that braid and break and begin again. Somewhere in the distance, the gods still stir. But you don't rush. You stir soup. You fix the roof. You sleep. And when the wind carries a new name toward your window, you whisper back, "Let them rest too." It begins with a dream. You're walking through a vast white field. Not snow, something softer. Ash maybe. Or memory. The air tastes like silence. And from far off, you hear someone calling your name. Not the loud, booming kind the gods always loved. This is smaller. Familiar. You wake to find the sun already up, the garden already loud, and Andromeda kicking a broken pot like it insulted her mother. "Morning," she mutters, hair askew, arms full of basil. Rough night. The beans tried to escape again. You stretch, joints cracking like old floorboards. Maybe they're just ambitious. Maybe I'm planting you next. Later that day, Eric's finds you under the fig tree. He's older now, shoulders broader, eyes wiser. Still calls you old man, even though you're barely halfway to gray. "You have a visitor," he says. You groan. "Please tell me it's not another poet." "Worse," he smirks. "It's a scholar." You sigh dramatically for effect and follow him. The scholar is young, nervous, dressed in robes too clean for anyone who actually works. "I've come from Athens," he blurts, "to document your story." You blink. "Why?" He flutters a scroll. "There are so many versions." People argue. Some say you turned to stone. Others say you turned into stars. One guy insists you married a sea cucumber. He stops, breathless. "I want the truth." You scratch your chin. "Why?" He hesitates. "Because people are still trying to be you." You sit down. Hard. Because that hits differently. You wave him over. "All right," you say. "But I'm not going to give you what you want." He nods eagerly, and you start talking. Not about monsters, not about gods, but about soil and porches, and what it feels like to finally sleep through the night. You tell him about Thalos, about the day the Medusa head stopped whispering, about the first time you saw Pegasus sulk because a goose stole his hay. You tell him the quiet things, and he listens, for hours. When he finally stands to leave, he says, "They'll hate this version." You shrug. Let them write their own. Scholarly debate alert. A disputed scroll fragment found near Delphi contains the line, "He undid his myth with kindness." Academics can't decide if it refers to Perseus or a different, unnamed hero. But it does make them all very uncomfortable, which probably means it's true. The next few weeks pass in that slow, honeyed way you've come to love. You build a bench with Eric's. Paint it the wrong color on purpose. Let the kids decorate it with drawings of winged goats and smiling snakes. You get a letter from Thalos. It's brief. Found another. Safe now. Heading north. And you smile like you just heard a lullaby. The fig trees give more than expected this year. The olives go rogue again. Someone starts fermenting fruit and accidentally invents festival wine. Andromeda organizes a feast. You protest. You know I hate speeches. You're not giving one. She's lying. She hands you a scroll the size of a towel and says, "Try to keep it under 15 minutes. You roll your eyes and burn it in the fire. We'll wing it. The day of the feast arrives, and everyone's dressed in their almost cleanest. Pegasus wears a flower crown he pretends to hate. The kids sing a song about vegetables that makes zero sense but involves impressive hand gestures. You sit on a bench that's way too polished, and they all look at you. So you stand, clear your throat, and say, "Thank you." Someone claps. Then everyone does. You nod. Now eat before the goat eats everything. That night, when the fire dies down and everyone's asleep, Andromeda beside you, Pegasus snoring like distant thunder, you walk outside. The stars above are patient, familiar. They don't call to you anymore. They just shine. You lie back on the grass and whisper, "I forgive you." You don't say who you mean, because it doesn't matter. Forgiveness is like rest. Sometimes it's enough to feel it in your bones. You close your eyes and drift. Not into legend, not into stars, just into sleep, right where you are. You wake to the sound of music. Not lyres, not flutes, not anything polite and mythical. No, this is banging, pots, pans, two spoons, and what sounds suspiciously like a hollow gourd being slapped in rhythm. You sit up to find a parade forming. Tiny feet thunder through the garden. Kids in makeshift armor, flowers taped to their heads, capes made from laundry that definitely wasn't dry yet. Eric's is the ringleader, wielding a ladle like a scepter. You sigh. What's the occasion? He grins. Founder's Day, you frown. We have that. Andromeda walks by with a cup of tea. We do now. You're the founder. Deal with it. You blink. Is this revenge for skipping your poetry night? She sips partially. The parade loops around the fig tree twice, then ends in a pile of giggles and grass stains. One child, with a full beard drawn on in charcoal, climbs your lap. Tell the story, she demands. The one with the flying horse and the rock lady and the fish thing. You sigh dramatically. Again, she nods solemnly. It's tradition. So you tell it, not like the old days, with thunder and drama and the weight of myth. This time, you say it like a bedtime story. You soften the monsters. You lean into the jokes. You change the ending. Medusa doesn't die this time. She moves far away, grows a garden, and writes moody poems about snakes. The sea monster gets a job giving boat rides. And Pegasus? He opens a bakery that specializes in cloud-shaped pastries. The kids love it. They cheer. Throw flowers. One pelts you with a fig and shouts, "Victory." You bow like a washed-up actor who's finally learned the joy of flop sweaters and local theater. Fun detail. In one village far from any port, a children's song survives that ends with the line, "Perseus flew, but mostly he grew." No one knows where it came from, but it makes adults cry more than it should. Later, when the children nap and the food disappears mysteriously into Pegasus's stable, you walk to the edge of town. The wind is warm. You find the old tree where you buried the stone from the oracle. It's grown taller, stronger. You run a hand along the bark and feel something shift under your palm. A vibration, a hum. You press your ear to it and hear breathing. Not your own, not human, something old. Watching, not malevolent, just curious. You step back, and the wind speaks. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just the wind. But the words you hear in your head are clear. Are you ready to rest? You close your eyes. Let the question settle. Then you whisper, almost, back in the village, a new family arrives. A couple, quiet, with eyes that scan rooftops before relaxing. You know that look. You offer them bread and a room. They say little. But the next morning, the man asks how to build a fence, and the woman kneels in the garden like it's holy. You nod. They'll be all right. Later that week, you and Andromeda walk through the grove. No weapons. No fanfare. Just you, her, and the smell of late summer citrus. She says, you know they want to carve your face on a stone tablet. You grimace. Why? For remembering. Can't they just write down, "He was very sleepy and didn't ruin anything"? She smirks. They could, but you know how people are. You think about that and shake your head. Let them remember the bread, you say. The garden. The way Pegasus sneezed on his own birthday cake. She grins. Especially that. That night, Pegasus sneezes again because he's Pegasus. You lie in bed, Andromeda beside you, listening to rain tap the roof like it's got nowhere else to be. You don't think about Medusa, or gods, or statues. You think about breakfast. And maybe, letting Eric's name the next street. He wants to call it Olive Branch Lane. You're considering it. Just before you sleep, you whisper, "I'm ready." The tree rustles softly in reply. You wake up before dawn. Not because of a noise or a bad dream. Just awake. The world outside still holds its breath. You sit up, feeling that ache in your bones that isn't from age, it's from weight. Not the heavy kind, the accumulated kind. The kind that comes from carrying stories for so long, they become part of your spine. You step outside. The air is cool, almost silvery. Mist curls around the fig trees. The village sleeps. No monsters. No omens. Just the faint cluck of a confused chicken and Pegasus muttering in his sleep. You walk to the hill. That hill, the one with the wide view of your town. The one where you buried Medusa's memory. The one where you used to stand and wonder what would come next. Now, you just breathe here. But today, something feels different. You sit under the tree. Let the bark press against your back. It's grown so tall you can barely see the top anymore. A shadow among stars. And for the first time in a long while, you feel it. The end. Not of the world, not of the village, just of your part in it. You're not dying. Not in the dramatic, hero turns to stardust kind of way. Just fading into stillness, becoming part of the land, the rhythm, the background hum. Andromeda finds you here, just after sunrise. She doesn't say anything. She just sits beside you, hands you a peach. You bite. It's perfect. She says, "Are we closing the story soon?" You nod. She rests her head on your shoulder, and for a long time, you just sit like that. Two people, a tree, and everything you didn't say, already understood. Fringe myth reference. One scrap of verse, half burned and never officially archived, says, "The man who once held thunder now holds silence." And still, the world listens. Many assume it's about Zeus, but some scholars, quiet ones, believe it refers to Perseus, a hero who learned to rest louder than he ever fought. Later that day, Eric's knocks on your door. He's got plans for a watermill. Drawings. Ideas. Excitement. You smile and say, "Tell me everything." You listen. And you realize something important. You're not the center anymore. And you love that. The kids lead the parades now. Thalos sends letters once a moon cycle, each one with a new name, a new story, a sketch of someone who found safety. Andromeda is organizing a No Heroics Day. You're not sure what that means, but it involves naps and cake, so you approve. Even Pegasus seems to have settled into elder statesman mode, allowing toddlers to use his tail as a slide, reluctantly but without biting. And you walk slower, talk less, but every word matters more. When someone asks about the Gorgon now, you don't describe her hair, or her eyes, or her ending. You describe her voice, because no one else did. And when a visitor calls you a legend, you correct them. "I'm a gardener." And then you show them the tomatoes. Quiet historical theory. In the annals of unwritten history, a belief persists among rural Greek oral storytellers that Perseus did not die, but simply chose not to be seen anymore. He stayed, they whisper, and the world got better because someone stayed. One morning, a girl you've never met runs up to you with a drawing. It's a picture of the town. No monsters. No battles. Just you, sitting with Pegasus, bread in hand, surrounded by laughing kids. You blink. "Is this me?" She nods. You ask, "Why not the sword?" She shrugs. You look happier this way, and maybe that's it. Maybe your legacy isn't a myth. It's a mood. A story that learned how to sit down. To hold still. To sleep. That night, you lie in bed, one hand on Andromeda's. The stars outside blink lazily. The tree on the hill sways gently, and you whisper, "It's almost time." The last day arrives like any other, not with trumpets or omens, no lightning splitting the sky, no mysterious cloaked figure whispering riddles, just sun, wind, the scent of bread baking, a kid arguing with a goose in the distance. You wake up, stretch, and crack your back like usual, except today, it doesn't feel like preparation, it feels like punctuation. Andromeda is already awake. She's outside, scolding a row of lettuce like it's underperforming in school. You join her. She says nothing, just hands you a cup of warm goat milk and leans into your side. You drink slowly. She asks, "Today?" You nod. She doesn't ask what that means. She already knows. You spend the morning walking the village. Every face you pass lights up, some with joy, some with quiet recognition. A few children run up to hug you around the waist. One of them hands you a beet with a proud. It's lumpy like your nose. You're weirdly honored. You help Eric's finish the roof on the new bakery storage shed. He doesn't say it out loud, but he's holding his hammer tighter than usual. At lunch, Thalos arrives. You didn't expect him, but you're not surprised. He looks different. Still quiet. Still wild-eyed in a way. But there's peace around his shoulders. A stillness you recognize. He hugs you. Says nothing. He brought bread. Terrible. Dense, chewy bread. You eat it anyway. That afternoon, you sit with Andromeda under the pergola, where grapevines have started curling like lazy dancers. She tells you about the latest market plan. How she's teaching the village kids how to keep books, how to haggle kindly. You listen. Then she says, very softly, "You did it, you know." You glance over. She's watching the horizon. You built something that didn't ask anyone to bleed for it. You look out, too. Over homes. Trees. A town full of people who chose to stay, who weren't commanded by prophecy or driven by divine guilt. Just people. Living. You squeeze her hand. We did. And then, quietly, you rise. You walk slowly, not because you're tired, but because everything in you wants to savor this pace. The sun dips low. The air glows amber. You head to the hill, where it all started, where the tree stands taller than ever. You sit beneath it. The grass is cool, the wind warm. You lay back, let it hold you. Above, the sky shifts from gold to deep velvet. One by one, the stars blink into being. You smile, because they're not watching you anymore. They're welcoming you. And then finally, you close your eyes. And sleep. Not a hero's sleep. Not a cursed sleep. Just sleep, real, gentle, complete. And so, here you are, lying beneath the stars, not as Perseus the monster slayer, not as a name carved into stone, but as someone who learned to let go, to set down the sword, to choose sleep, not because you were weary, but because the world was finally quiet enough to rest in. The night air hums around you, soft and low, like a lullaby older than myths. The grass beneath you breathes with the rhythm of the land. The tree overhead sways with patience, the kind of patience only nature knows. You've carried heavy stories. You've battled noise, but tonight there is no weight, no quest, only calm. In the distance, a breeze rustles the olive leaves. Children are dreaming. Pegasus, retired and round, snores lightly from his little stable. Andromeda sleeps near the window, a book slipping from her fingers. Everything is still. And you? You sleep too. No monuments needed. No legacy written in marble. Just warm soil, kind shadows, and the deep exhale of a life fully lived. Let that be enough now. Let the breath slow. Let the muscles ease. Let the stars blink a little slower. And if sleep takes you now, let it. You've made it. You're home. You're safe. You can rest. Now close your eyes. Breathe one more time. And let it all fade.